Okay, let's just dive right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're skipping the usual agenda and going straight to the heart of something I think literally every single one of us faces: the modern crisis of meaning. We're going to unpack some seriously fascinating insights about how we navigate that incredibly tricky space between who we are right now and who we actually have the potential to become. I want to start by just holding up a mirror to the anxiety that so many of us feel. Think about it. What happens when you suddenly realize you aren't who you could be? It's a heavy, heavy realization. Recognizing that massive, frankly intimidating gap between your current reality and your ultimate potential. Well, that is usually the exact birthplace of deep, paralyzing anxiety. And hey, if you feel that way, you are absolutely not alone. The data completely validates that experience. A recent deep dive by the Harvard Graduate School of Education into young adults found that 58% report lacking meaning or purpose. 58! Half of them are suffering simply because they don't know what to do with their lives. So, if you feel like you're wandering in this desert of aimlessness, take a breath. The demoralization in our culture is incredibly widespread. Section 1. Beyond naivety and cynicism. To understand how to cure this aimlessness, we first have to look at our psychological evolution, specifically, how we as humans process failure and malevolence as we go out and interact with the world. You see, we all start out naive. But when that naivety shatters upon contact with harsh reality, we usually evolve straight into cynicism. And actually, technically speaking, that's an improvement. I know it sounds weird, but the veils have finally fallen from your eyes. You're no longer blind to how difficult the world is, or to the potential darkness in your own heart. But here is the absolutely crucial question you have to ask yourself. How does your cynicism let you off the hook? It is so incredibly easy for our cynicism to secretly justify a desire to just avoid responsibility. We tell ourselves, well, the world's rigged anyway, so why even try? We use doubt as a really convenient excuse to pursue short-term hedonism instead of tackling any genuinely meaningful goals. So you cannot just end your journey at cynicism. It is a terrible final destination that just breeds bitterness. Instead, you have to substitute courage for your lost naivety to arrive at true wisdom. Courage is what allows us to face a flawed, potentially catastrophic future with the optimism that we can actually navigate it, not as some naive, wishful hope, but as a strict moral imperative. Section 2. The comparison trap. Let's tackle another massive source of modern anxiety. This is where we set impossible ideals and just end up crushing ourselves under the weight of unfair comparisons. You are not all that you could be. The second you posit an ideal for your life, that ideal immediately becomes the ultimate judge. And realizing how far you fall short of that perfect image, it can totally paralyze you. It acts like this painful, hyper-focused mirror, highlighting every single one of your inadequacies. To avoid that paralyzing despondency, you have to basically scale the dragon down to size. First, you acknowledge the gap. Second, you temporarily lower the ideal to something you can actually manage. And third, and this is key, you take humiliatingly small, actionable steps forward. If your ultimate ideal is to be an elite athlete, your first step today might literally just be putting on your shoes and walking to the mailbox without getting winded. You have to break massive goals down into trivial steps you're actually willing to take right now. You might be wondering, why do those tiny, embarrassing steps matter so much? It's because of the Matthew principle. To those who have everything, more will be given. From those who have nothing, everything will be taken. Reality operates geometrically, not in a straight line. If you just get the ball rolling with one tiny step uphill, your progress will eventually speed up exponentially. It's a massive snowball effect. This means you have got to stop comparing yourself to the highly curated, beautifully marketed slices of other people's lives. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. People constantly envy the genius and wealth of celebrities like Elon Musk, right? But they don't see the full reality. Musk himself describes his own mind as a storm, a hypermanic state of nonstop thought that most of us really wouldn't want to endure. You never see the horror of a person's total reality, just the highlights they choose to broadcast. Section 3, Truth as an Adventure. Okay, so once you stop comparing yourself to others, you're finally ready to embark on the ultimate adventure. And this adventure is fundamentally rooted in one very, very difficult thing: telling the truth. When our plans fail, it's incredibly easy to retreat into what the philosopher Isaiah Berlin called the inner citadel. Basically, it's a spiritual retreat into the self, where you attempt to inwardly create a fantasy world that an evil fate has denied you externally. If you can't get what you want out there, you just teach yourself to despise it. We build these compensatory delusions instead of actually facing the real world.
Now, we have to draw a hard line here. Having a fantasy or a strategic map for your future, that's totally necessary. But it crosses over into a toxic delusion when you actively ignore elements of your own experience just so you don't have to pay the appropriate price for your goals.
The consequences of lying to yourself are severe. If you manipulate words just to get what you want, you program yourself falsely and pathologize your own natural instincts. You completely warp your vision of reality. And that guarantees that one day when it's dark, you are going to wander blindly into some terrible, sharp obstacles. Self-serving delusions literally blind you to the pitfalls that are right in front of your face. Substitute courage for naivety and regain your optimism as a moral imperative. Choosing to tell the truth means letting go of trying to control all the consequences. Is it scary? Yes, for sure. But it gives you the literal force of reality behind you. It introduces genuine, unpredictable adventure into your life because you're finally aligning yourself with what is actually real. Section 4. The Responsibility Cure. This brings us to a really profound realization about our well-being. Mental health isn't just some subjective feeling you carry around inside your head, totally isolated from the rest of the world. It's not just about what mood you happen to be in today. True sanity is found in concordance with the world. By voluntarily adopting a hierarchy of responsibility, starting with yourself, then expanding to a partner, then your family, and finally your broader community, you build a really robust identity. And that identity acts as the ultimate armor against anxiety and aimlessness. You're no longer just an individual floating in space. You are nested securely in a real social structure. A huge part of taking on this responsibility is humility. Always ask a stupid question. If you have the courage to ask a basic question and just reveal your ignorance, kind of like what we try to do in this explainer so we can learn alongside you, you can actually rectify your errors. Do that 1,000 times and guess what? You aren't ignorant anymore. You just grow exponentially stronger. Section 5. The Necessity of Sacrifice. Adapting to life and successfully integrating into these hierarchies of responsibility requires adopting a sacrificial relationship with the future. Which brings us right to the definition of work. Work is, at its core, the sacrifice of the present for the future. It's this covenantal bargain where you voluntarily give up your short-term physiological comfort right now because you deeply believe it's going to pay off over the medium to long run. That is the absolute essence of human striving. To attain your ideal, you have to go through a rigorous process of purification. Think of the really vivid biblical metaphor of the cherubim's burning sword at the gates of paradise. You have to willingly confront that burning sword, allowing it to painfully cut and burn away everything in you that is arrogant, resentful, and unworthy. Only then can you emerge purified, competent, and actually ready for your ideal. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If you genuinely faced everything that was put in front of you, who would you be? Just imagine the incredible person you could become if you completely abandoned your self-deception, stopped avoiding the necessary sacrifices, and bravely confronted the dragon of your potential today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks the courage you need for the adventure ahead.